Welcome to Freeform Radio on the Freeform Network. You can follow us on Twitter at FFR Podcast. And you can send your questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Again, this is Freeform Radio. We have Danny.
Yes, sir, man. Just strolled in, clicked on the mic, and I'm live. And I don't know what else I am, but I am live or
Oh, good.
live, whichever. I don't know if we decided that from last episode.
Well, I guess that's a good thing. And we got Noel.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Glad to be here again.
And then it's all good, Andy. We're back and at 'em here on a new episode this week. Just trying to get through this Midwest winter, Chicago winter. It's January, we're like in the thick of it, where it gets the days are long and dark and gray. So, but we're gonna plow ahead, and the snow's holding up, so we're doing all right. But let's just jump right into it. We got Noel here, and he's ready to talk about. He's been very active lately. Let's go with. I see you want to talk some UFC. So it looks like someone just got released after some disputes. I think I saw something about this on Twitter, but break it down for us, Noel. What's going on?
All right, so Francis Ngannou, if you guys don't know, is probably one of the best heavyweights to have graced the octagon in the last, I would say, 10 years.
Whoa.
Probably in the whole history of the UFC, to be honest with you. He's a talented fighter.
You said
That's
heavyweight?
He's a heavyweight, yeah.
Okay.
He actually, I think, kind not struggles to make the weight, but he's a pretty heavy guy. He's probably like 250 or something like that. He drops down to 235. Really big guy. If you guys don't know who I'm talking about, Google him. He is, man, he is an imposing force in that division. He was rising up the ranks a couple years ago, and he ended up fighting for the title on two occasions. The first time he ended up losing. He was, I think, lost by decision, but he did pretty well for fighting up like Stipe Miocic, who was the champion at the time. He ended up fighting a second time with Stipe Miocic, and he absolutely like flatlined him, dude. He knocked him cold to the point where like he fell backwards on his own leg, like it looked really bad, and he won the title at that point, which was a couple years back. At this point, I think it's almost like 2.5 years or something like that, 3 years, and he defended his belt a few times as well. Did really well as a fighter and as a just a good sportsman. A lot of people liked him and were behind him and wanted to see him continue to fight. The problem is he wants to be what most would like to be in the UFC, which is they claim to be independent contractors, but the way the UFC works, the way the contract works for them, it won't allow them to be in any other organization or fight for any other organization. But like boxing, when you are an independent contractor and you choose to fight for multiple organizations, you can have multiple titles in different organizations, and you can, make just, boatloads of money. So Ngannou wanted to, he wanted to test his abilities in boxing, and unfortunately, with that contract with the UFC, he's not able to because of that, that clause where you can't fight for anyone else. So as that fight, the second one where he won the title, his contract was getting close to being wrapped up. He had a title defense against Cyril Gane. He's a French um, fighter as well, and he's one of those kickboxers that can, just put your lights out, instantly. And so that was a really hyped up matchup. And around that time, people were saying, well, if Ngannou wins, what's going to happen? How is this contract going to play out? Is the UFC going to be forced to allow him to do boxing? And that's what he was saying. People were saying, oh, he doesn't want to fight because he's scared. He doesn't want to fight because the money. And every time Francis kept saying, he's like, I don't want to fight. I want to fight, but I don't want this contract because this contract restricts me. It limits me to this company, and it limits my potential. And so, you know, most true diehard like UFC and MMA fans understood where he was coming from on that, because the UFC does kind of pull some unusual things that, although they call them independent contractors, like I'm saying, it's really, you might as well, like, it's kind of like when the WWE, you can't just go to WCW, you can't go to AEW and all these other organizations. You are almost like an employee of the one organization you're a part of. So anyway, long story short, to kind of, I give you the backstory there. Francis Ngannou was in negotiations for like about 2 years, and they weren't able to get to terms. He was like dead set. He's like, you got to put in the contract that you're gonna allow me to box, otherwise I'm not signing shit. And unfortunately, they didn't want to do that, and so they ended up releasing him. He is the current champion, but they released him, so he's a free agent. Um, they're gonna fill the vacancy of the title with a John Jones versus Cyril Gane, the guy that Ngannou beat, and he beat him. Ngannou beat him with a fucking like messed up ankle or messed up knee that needed surgery, and he beat him like decisively, like pretty well.
So
Uh,
I have a question also going back to his release. Does he have did they agree to like a no complete compete clause? Like usually in wrestling, because they're independent contractors. Usually when they get released, they ask for the release, they grant it to them. But there's usually like a 90-day no complete clause, or even longer, depending on the length of the contract.
Well, I think, Andy, that's when you get fired from the WWE. I don't know if your contract just expires, if they have
Even
any
if it
recourse.
expires, they
Does it? Okay.
they they have it in there, like, or even now what they're doing lately. The big one most recently was Rey Mysterio. He got hurt in one of his last contracts. He was hurt for 3 months. They're like, "Oh, my contract's up like in August." Like, no, you gotta work the 3 months that you were injured. So they like, it's some clause in their contract that automatically extends it the length that you were injured, unless you agree to some type of terms of release.
Wow.
well, when Ngannou beat Gane to defend his title, because he was still champion, it extended his contract for like another 6 months or something, which gave the UFC time to try to negotiate for those 6 months or 8 months or whatever it is. But now that negotiations have fallen through, I think what you're saying, it's true. But I think all that's, it's like, it's a, it's not valid anymore. Like at this point, he has been released to the point where he can go wherever he wants. Even Dana White had said as much, that he is free to do whatever he wants to do now. Like he's no longer part of the UFC. He's no longer champion in the UFC, and he kind of he threw him under the bus, unfortunately, Dana White. But I mean, what else is he gonna do?
Yeah,
He's a promoter. He's gonna.
that's what I'm saying. Like, if you get a full release, I mean, good for him. But sometimes when people get released, they don't want them to show up on TV or your competitors.
Right.
Company, like, breaking news, like 2 days later, I signed with Bellator, some new MMA startup, or the boxing thing. I kind of get right now because it's kind of like entertainment, where like Triller, and you get these like mixed martial art guys and boxing and all these people just fighting. Like, that's what people are watching. So there's money to be made. Even like with McGregor and Mayweather, like that was just a ton of money because it was like a spectacle. Like, oh, what's gonna happen here?
Right. You don't want to be like Rick Rude and just show up the very next day for taping
Yeah,
to
yeah.
to the
For the
Well, you
competitors.
know
BS.
the story on
Yeah.
that, right? They had like an
Right.
incident.
Right.
So
But
he's like, he screwed over Vince or whatever. But whatever. Yeah. Uh,
right. I know in AEW or some of the smaller organizations, they allow open contracts where you can go and compete in other organizations and you can go wrestle in other places. So maybe this Francis guy wanted to try to bridge that gap as well and bring that feature to UFC. But obviously, UFC's in big competition with other MMA companies, and maybe they just didn't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it's their loss, man, because Francis is a legitimate threat to any heavyweight in any other organization. I don't doubt he's going to be a champion wherever he goes, whatever organization he signs up with. But they just got Nate Diaz also got released this year. So, or not this year, 2022 he got released. Now we're in 2023. So we'll see with them two out there. We'll see what happens, but I'll keep you guys posted. kind of shifting here now. I ended up seeing that new Avatar movie, the James
Really?
Cameron's
Huh.
Avatar 2, Way of Water. It's, uh, it's an interesting movie, man. Uh, Like visually, it is like a masterpiece, though. Visually, it is so beautiful, man. Man, and watching it in theaters is like a unique experience. I had to see it that way because um, there were some copies released out there, like you can find on the internet, but I wanted to see the real deal experience. And I kind of wanted to put my money towards it too. It was only like, $11 for the ticket. And I was like, you know what, let me check it out in theaters. It's a 3 hour and 20-minute movie about there. So it's a long one, man. It's a slow burn, but it does do the character development right. There was a couple parts that I kind of predicted what was going to happen, but you get it, you get everything, man. You get the drama, you get the symbolic spiritualism of the movie, and then you get tons of action, like
I,
explosions left and right. It's kind of like watching Rambo, but like on this planet called Pandora.
Hey, is that
right.
girl from Aliens? Is she back?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
in it.
okay.
She's in it in a different way than you would imagine, though. But she is in it. She has her own like appearances and
What's her name? Sigourney Weaver? Something like that?
Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, dude. So her character. Have you seen the first one? Either you guys?
I
Yeah,
have.
yeah, I saw the first one. I actually liked it. I know a lot of people were kind of I was kind of hearing like some bashing of Avatar 2. I don't know if it's just because it took so long because it was like 10 years in development. It was some like outrageous thing.
Yep.
So I don't know if that's what was getting some of the negative light that I saw, but I was kind of hyped to see it. I don't know about theater hype because theaters are kind of expensive nowadays, but I definitely want to check it out and see if it's worth the wait.
That's why they're expensive because this movie was made for the theater. I mean, I think Cameron made some comments recently about the movies and versus streaming and like what the theater option brings, especially like this with the 3D and I don't know what else he did in like the surround sound, the theater sound, and he's another one that's coming out against streaming, not screaming, but he had his critiques of it, and along with some other people. But like exactly, this is the movie. Unfortunately, with Hollywood, this is the type of movie that uh, it's expensive, but it's because they want people to go to the theater and the the Tarantino movies. They're never gonna make this much movie. I mean, people go watch them, but I mean, there's just it's all talk. It's just it's a fucking movie. This is like just it's a what did they used to call it? A must-watch event or whatever, and that's the feeling I get from Avatar. But there was some critiques of it, like always now with everything, and I don't know. I do remember watching the first one, and I was like visually it was amazing. The story was I think if I remember, it was like against corporations and stuff, and like fighting native peoples. That was kind of like the undertone. But this one, I saw some stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it when it comes on. Uh, so Disney made it. Maybe it'll be on Disney Plus or Hulu, one of those two.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how soon it goes out there. Hopefully, it does remain in theaters a little longer. I saw it; it's almost at the 2 billion. At the time of this recording, I think it's almost at 2 bill, or yeah, around there, 2 billion. So we'll see if it passes that by the time we upload this. But I do recommend it, man. Like it's a good movie. A lot of people were bashing it, and they say that the story is kind of generic, and I disagree because there are elements of the story that yeah can be predicted, right? There's certain things that unfold in a way where I'm like I can see where this is going, right? Yeah, but that's for a lot of movies nowadays. A lot of movies that get Oscar nominations can be predicted as well. Like, oh, hey, these people like each other and they're the same sex. Oh, I wonder what's going to happen. It's just like we already know, like, there's so many of these movies that are being put out there that are, still good movies, even if they're predictable. So it's
Wait, the
like,
Avatar people are gay now,
no, no,
or
I
there's
was saying,
characters in the like the
like,
human.
there's certain movies like I forgot which one. There was one with like Kirsten Dunst, I think, where there was like the Queen of England and like her like helper. They ended up like falling in love or something. There's another movie, Just Call Me by My Name or something like that. I never saw it, right? But it has like a typical premise that's predictable, yet people really enjoyed it and they got like Oscar nominations. And I'm like, this movie, although I mean, there's really not like a lot of similarities between those movies and this one. I'm just saying that the stories can be predictable, yet it could still be worth telling. It could be a good story, even though there's elements of it that you're like, I could see where this is going.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, that today, especially with today's movie, that the being all inclusive and stuff, like it is what it is. I'm not knocking it, but sometimes it's a little in your face. But yeah, I was just thought the characters of the I forgot the name of the race that's on that planet's name. I thought like, oh, now there's gay people like
Smurfs.
that. Well, I mean the Smurfs obviously it's all gay because there's one chick, right, and then everybody else was just dudes. So I don't know why the
Oh,
fuck.
really? I never thought about that. Dang. Damn, man, you just ruined my childhood, man.
I watched Smurf a couple times, but when you're a kid, you don't think about that. But when you're older, you're just like, what the hell's going on here? Or
Yeah, is Thundercats the same way? What the hell's going on, man?
Chitara, I think
Yeah?
Chitara got down with the group, man, except the kids. Yeah, even
Jesus.
Snarf or Snarl wasn't down too, man. Even Jack as a ghost, I think, was down too.
but anyway, going back to the Avatar, uh, the people you're talking about is called the Navi. That's the race. And what's cool is that it's multiple different tribes, and in this movie you get to see a new tribe, and it's kind of like where the first one was people that lived in like a foresty, rainforest, jungle type area, kind of like more akin to like Africa type. This one is more like the Maori, like the Pacific Islands kind of thing, or maybe even like Australia, New Zealand type of thing, because there's moments where the warriors in this new area they stick out their tongues, kind of like the Maoris, and they kind of have like the same attitude and like this like warrior mentality, and it was really cool to see, man. I do recommend it to people. It's got a lot of good positive points to it, and the spirituality part I always dug. I always thought that was really cool, and like I said, it's beautifully like done cinematically. It's like one of his best works. But yeah, to shift it to a different movie and probably wrap it up on this one here for my weekend update. I watched Violent Night. It's a movie with what's his name, the guy from Stranger Things.
Right.
It's kind of like a mix between like Die Hard and Home Alone, and they even like kind of give homage to both those movies in different ways.
He
Um,
says yippee ki
now that would be too on the nose. But he does have his one liners. He does have the people that he sneaks up and starts murdering. Uh, it's essentially a similar story where there's people that are trying to take hold people hostage in exchange for money. And to kind of give you just like, it's not a spoiler, but to kind of give you like the little background here, there's a woman that's very, very rich. She has tremendous amounts of money. In the movie, it'll explain how she got that money, but all you need to know for right now is that she has a lot of money. These people want it, and they're willing to hold their family hostage for her to give it up, right? Like the access to the vault or whatever it is. And so this guy from Stranger Things, oh man, what's his name? I know his last name is Harbor. Um, he's Santa Claus in this movie, and he ends up, coming across this situation throughout his journey to give presents to the kids and everything, and so he wants to save this little girl that's a part of this hostage situation, and the little girl has her moments too where it kind of reminds me of Home Alone, where she sets up some traps and shit, and it's funny, man. It's a good movie for just like turning your brain off and watching some action. with just some funny moments. John Leguizamo's in it. He does really well as the he's kind of like the villain, the main villain, and you have a few familiar faces. The girl from Christmas Vacations there, the wife. I can't remember her name, the character
Oh,
name.
Beverly
right. Yeah.
D'Angelo.
Yeah, yeah, she is the rich woman, like the executive business owner, and yeah, dude, it's worth watching. I don't want to say too much more because I don't want to spoil it. It's actually it was kind of cool to see it and to see the angle that they put on it, where Santa Claus it goes into like Norse mythology, and it's really cool, man. I think you guys should check it out. A lot of blood, a lot of gore. It's rated R. It's more for an adult, so it's like imagine Die Hard and Home Alone for adults.
Sweet, man. I actually want to see it, so I think I might have to put it on my radar and watch it one of these days.
For sure, man. But yeah, shifting it over to you, Daniel. Looks like you've been starting something new. It looks like you started Superman and Lois. Well, what are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
yeah, man. I just watched the first EP episode for you, Andy. Um, but yeah, I watched Superman and Lois, and man, I gotta say, this is a totally different show than what I was expecting. I don't really even know what I was expecting because
So
I
is this the
knew,
one from the '90s or the new one on? Was it CW?
yeah, this is newish. I think in the last 2, 3 years, I
Yeah.
want to say.
Okay.
Um, and it's where basically Superman and Lois get married. They have twins, and it's him trying to be a father and a family dynamic kind of thing. And I know CW did this multiverse thing for Crisis Infinite or whatever it was
Or
called.
Arrow.
Right. And it all got blended in. But I watched the first episode, and I had gotten like 15, 20 minutes into it, and then Alana came to join me. She was doing something else, and then she came and sat down on the couch, and I'm like, oh man, she's gonna really dig this. So I'm like, yeah, let's start this episode over so you could see the start. And so I rewind it, watch it again, and I'm thinking it's gonna be like really impactful for her. I'm like totally geeked out with Superman, so I'm just like, man, this is awesome, and this is really cool. I'm really digging it. And then we get to the end of the episode, or not to the end of the episode, but we're having dinner, and just in conversation, I'm just like, yeah, so that is a weird dynamic, right? How Superman's a dad now, and he's trying to take care of these two teen kids, and the way he deals with them. And she's just like, it was okay. And I was just like, wow, man, it was just like, oh my god, man, I was so connected to it that I couldn't wait to watch the next episode. And I saw it kind of fell flat for Alana, and she's just like, it's just kind of like any other dumb teen movie. He's just like, there's too many of these, kind of like kids having issues, and then the dad can't connect. And then the whole episode, they're having issues like connecting, where the son's like, "You're not my dad," or whatever. He didn't literally say that, but it was kind of like that vibe. And at the end, everything just magically, corrects itself, and then they all hug it out, and they're like, "Man, we're gonna start a new life." Yes. And it's like this super happy ending, at the very end. So she's just like, it seemed kind of a little phony, or a little like too rushed.
I'm
And
with
it
Alana, man. I 100% agree with her, and I haven't watched the show. I like her assessment of
right.
this show.
And I do kind of agree with that in most cases, but maybe this is a show that it is obviously a pilot, so maybe they're trying to show uh production companies out there, like, this is what the theme that we're kind of going for. So you kind of have to put some kind of finality in it, maybe. And maybe they felt the best way to end the episode was to kind of show that, yeah, even though they struggled through the entirety of the episode, 1 hour episode, that at the end it finally resolved itself. But needless to say, I'm kind of pumped to see the rest of the episodes. I think they did 2 seasons so far, and I don't believe they got canceled. So hopefully there'll be more. But so far, from the first episode I saw, was really really excited. Now you saw this one, right, Noel? What were your thoughts on it?
Oh man, I really love the show, dude. I was really surprised because CW is like very much hit or miss. But when I watched it and I gave it its time to see every episode, um, I ended up binging it too because they took hiatuses throughout. It was filmed during COVID, like you said, it was like 2 or 3 years ago, so it was like right in the midst of COVID, and it was like a lot of delays and shit. But dude, the show holds up. It's got great writing, great CGI, like everything is cool, and I could see where Alana was coming from, but it is a pilot, like you said. I think she needs to give it a chance, watch a couple more episodes, and before she like gives her final verdict, because Lois hasn't really had a chance to shine, but there is a chance for everyone to have their moment. It's not just about Superman, but it does hold Superman in the spotlight the way it should. But she also has her moment to shine and to make an impact, and I think it's gonna be good. I think you're gonna like it.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know if I'm gonna watch any more with Alana. I think I'm gonna watch the rest of it by
You're
myself.
like, get cut off, woman. I don't need you to spoil my love of this one episode.
uh-huh. Well, well,
And
well.
then like that dynamic where you love something and your spouse, your
Right.
wife, doesn't, and like it kind of like not
It's
it messes up things.
sours it a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you want to do something together, but they don't like it, which is fine. But then they're like, let's watch something together, and you're like, well, I only got like limited time before I go to bed or whatever the case might be, and you're like, I want to watch this, and then you gotta watch some other crap or like settle, compromise, and
Right.
then
Right.
this is not what I really wanted to watch.
And to be honest, we do have other shows that we watch together. We're watching Narcos right now, which I haven't really talked about it on the show, on the podcast, but we're watching Narcos. And then our kind of like wind down, chill. We've been rewatching King of Queens. So we got a couple shows that we watched together. Uh, but yeah, this was one that she was doing something else. So I started watching it because I'm like, well, I'm interested in Superman. Let me see how this is. And when she came and joined me, I was really taken by the first like 15 minutes of the episode. Then I'm like, oh, she's gonna love this thing, man. Let me start it over because it's that good. But nah, I guess I didn't catch her. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe she'll pick up the rest. But um, to Noel's thing, I did actually go to the theater. I totally forgot about this, but when you brought up the theaters, I went to the theater to go see that new Megan movie, that artificial intelligent robot movie. Um, I I kind of saw these on trailers here and there when it was rolling up to the release, but I had totally forgotten about this. And then suddenly it just popped up all over my feeds, like all over YouTube and Facebook, the trailers, and especially like that dancing, little scene that she does kept popping up. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I was just like, yes, I remember seeing this trailer. So I got reinterested in it. Noel's or Junior's not really into horror movies too much, or he is into it, but he gets freaked out really easy. So um, I told Alana, I'm like, I really want to go watch this. So it sounds like we might have to do it as a date night thing if we're going to go see it at the theaters, or we could ask Junior to see if he wants to go. And when we asked him, he seemed really game for it. He's just like, yeah, let's go see it. So all three of us went. We went to a local theater here by us, and the movie was half decent, man. I would give it like a 7 or maybe even an 8.
Oh,
But
dang.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
now granted it's not a great movie, but it's a good movie. It's a good movie. Um, Kind of light in the horrorish. It's more drama, I would say, and kind of just the it's kind of like Jaws, where Jaws, the 2/3 of the movie, you don't even see a lot of the action and a lot of like the terror. It's more like the last third is like the action part where all the, the shark is doing all the work, and that's how kind of how Megan is. It's a slow burn. The first 2/3, you kind of see like little bits of this crazy robot, and then it's the last third that kind of like ramps it up, and you just see this robot go nuts. But yeah, it was pretty cool. The usual what's going to happen when these robots become sentient and they become smart and they don't want to get turned off when you tell them to turn off. And there was a scene, Andy, I know you've seen this video, but there was a scene when they were testing the robot, like before it became Megan, and they were kind of just like working out the programming kinks, where the guy's like hitting the robot with like a soft bat and trying to like knock it over, and they're testing out its like ergodynamics to make sure that it could balance itself. And it
Right.
just it reminded me of those videos that are out there where they're like beating up on like robots and trying to get them to like stand and balance themselves while they're crossing bridges and shit like that, man. And I'm like, man, this is like real life. This is what people are doing out there with robotics right now.
Bill Burr has a bit about that. Like when the robots take over, they're gonna when we're on trial for being assholes, they're gonna show all those videos where we're fucking up all those robots and
Right.
and all this bullshit and like that's the videos they're gonna show where we're fucking hitting them with bats and stuff and like look what you did to us and because they're that's why we had to overtake you and stuff like that and then yeah, I see it is Megan is trending on Twitter and I see all these posts about it and yeah, I forgot. Did Eli Roth direct this or he produced it, right? Or no?
It's by that Blumhouse.
Yeah, the Bloomhouse or whatever.
Blumhouse. There you go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they agreed to make. There was some backstory about it. They weren't gonna make they have a rule where they don't make like sequels or something.
Okay.
But they're talking about this one might get it, or there's gonna be like some type of universe, kind of like The Conjuring.
All right.
They're gonna do that.
I did see like a quick behind the scenes because the robot looks really eerie, and I'm like, man, is this like a animatronic or is it like a live actor? So I kind of saw a little behind the scenes, and in it, the director and whatnot, they did make mention something to the fact of, yeah, so and so came to me with this idea, or came to me with an idea for like a horror movie, and I was kind of soft on it. But then while I'm chewing that project over, he presented Megan, and I was just like, yes, I kind of like that first idea, but let's do Megan while we figure out that first one. And so this was like the movie they settled on to produce and make, while they're, I guess they're working out this other big project that he wants to do. But yeah, it was pretty good for people out there that like that child's play, that like that iRobot kind of stuff where robots become sentient. This is a good thriller, uh, horror movie, that's good, maybe not great or excellent, nothing like the way Noel is mentioning Avatar, but it's worth a watch for people out there that like horror movies and are interested in seeing robots take over. But really cool, man. I know you're into horror, Noel. Have you seen the trailers? Are you even interested in this?
You know, I was contemplating whether to see that in the theaters because I saw what was available to watch, and I saw Megan was there, and there's another horror movie that was there too, and I was like, ah, man, I think Avatar won out because I just been waiting for it for so long, and I'm like, I'll wait for Megan when it comes out, you know, on Blu-ray or whatever. And I wanted to see what other people reviewed too, so it is on my radar to watch, but it wasn't high on the list.
Yeah, I don't know if it's theater watch, but I think when it gets released on DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever, I think you should definitely give it a watch. Um, yeah, I was kind of the same way. I'm like, man, what do we watch? We're sitting here at home, kind of surfing through Netflix and a few other things, and Barbarian came out, and I think you, Noel, said that that was a really good one. Uh,
I enjoyed the hell out of that one. That was pretty creepy, man.
right. So I'm flipping through, and I'm like, yeah, I think Noel said Barbarian's really good, but really quick as I'm flipping through, I ran across Airplane, and Alana's just like, "Oh, I've never seen that. That's kind of weird that Airplane's in the name." And then it has this like twisted airplane.
It's a classic.
So I'm sorry, Noel. I know you were Noel was in the back of my head telling me Barbarian, Barbarian. But I was just like, oh man, I can't pass up Airplane if Alana's never seen this thing.
Oh
So
yeah.
so popped it in, man, and it had me going, man. I was just laughing, and stuff was still having me pop. And I think after the movie was over, I asked Alana, I'm like, so you never seen that? And she's like, I think I've seen pieces because some of it looked familiar, but that she had never really paid attention to it. But she was laughing. Some jokes are just timeless, and some do have a time limit because there's some that uh, I understand because I've seen this when I was a kid, but I could see Junior watching it and being like, I don't get it. So
I
uh, definitely a movie of its time.
It has a lot of one-liners. I love the I picked a bad day to quit smoking,
Right.
and then when the captain or whatever walks into the airport and he has all these people trying to talk to him, he's just fucking them all up.
Yeah, I don't. I just think that's funny, but I don't know if that's like a ripoff from another movie. Because, so I don't get that reference. And this is really not the first, but one of the first that put those like spoof movies together, like scary movie, where they pick a bunch of movies and put it into one scary movie and kind of make fun of it. Because there are a lot of funny scenes that are in there that are referencing other movies.
I like the one where they have to do the autopilot, and then
Oh, it deflates.
they has to you have to inflate them, and then it has the blow here or whatever, and then the autopilot has just a big smile on his head with a cigarette afterwards.
Right, right.
I was just like, oh man, this is hilarious. And then, did you ever see the sequel where they the new
Go
airplane
into
they fly into
space.
space to the
Yeah,
moon?
yeah.
William
It-
Shatner.
dude, I is that the one? I don't know if you remember, but I was telling Alana, I'm like, I wonder if this airplane movie is the censored version or the uncensored, because watching it on TV, you always watch the censored
Yeah,
version.
yeah.
But I recall there being a scene where they're walking through the airport and they pass by the X-ray machine, and it kind of shows regular X-ray stuff as some people walk by. But then there's this lady like with big jugs, and as she walks by, it just shows her boobs kind of jiggling as she's walking by the X-ray machine. And when I didn't see that scene, I'm like, oh, this must be like the edited version.
I think
But then
that's
I
in the
but then I started thinking,
second
I'm
one,
like, is that on part two?
and I
Maybe
think
I'm
that's part two.
yeah. So yeah, I guess I'll have to watch part two to find out and watch some jiggling titties that I remember when I was a teenage kid. But Andy, speaking of jiggles, man, jump over to you, man. Clerks 3, man. I'm assuming you just watched this. This came out a minute ago, but are you just getting around to watching this?
Yeah, I just I bought the Blu-ray. I actually pre-ordered it. Because it was people were on the Twitterverse were going crazy about it, and I mean I love Clerks. I watched the first one, the second one. The animated cartoon, um, and people were saying that it was kind of a downer movie, and then right in the beginning, I'm not gonna give too much details, but yeah, it was like oh shit, like he did something to one of the characters, and then he does his little opus to Clerks. Uh, like it's a typical Kevin Smith movie. He goes he goes back to the well. He starts rehashing stuff from the first movie and the second movie, and then he has a ton of cameos, right? And then he has like some serious moments, and then you get to the ending where it's all like melodramatic. But I mean, for me, watching these characters since like the '90s, I mean, I was able to get plowed through it and stuff. But overall, I mean, I recommend it. It puts your like I said, the characters. It's since the '90s. I watched it's 30 plus years now, and it's without giving out too much details, it is kind of not sad. I want to say it's just I guess what happens to one of the characters because what he was going through had to happen, and then they do their usual shtick, and then it keeps going. But I do recommend it. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever seen Clerks or Clerks Two, because Clerks Two it actually had See, the problem was like with Clerks 2, it was like a different story. You see where they're up to, those characters. And this one, it kind of like just rehashes, I feel like, the first Clerks. But going back, did you guys see Clerks 2 at all?
I think I watched it, but it was so long ago. It was around the time that I was like, it was probably like the early 2000s. I think I watched it. I watched that, Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. I watched a bunch of those, Dogma. I was really into the whole Kevin Smith stuff, Mallrats. So I do know his work, but I just can't remember the story wise what happened.
Yeah, it's Clerks 2 is when they go into that movies, the like the McDonald's ripoff,
In the
and
US Cuban, yeah, in
yeah,
his universe, yeah.
and so they're going and they become like workers for the movies chain for food, and so that's where part two takes place mostly, and then it's got that one actor, I forget her name now, but anyways, yeah, part two was half decent. I kind of liked part one obviously better, but I thought Clerks 3 was well done as well. It's at Cameo Fest, so everybody's just taking, coming in cameo spot. Almost all the original actors from Clerks 1 come back, and then it is sad because there is a finality to it, and there's a sadness to that. But I think there's only so many times that you can come back and do the same fart jokes and still get a pop and still get people to come back. And I think Kevin Smith kind of sees that, especially with the Jay and Silent Bob movies. I think they've slowly, as more and more come out, they've performed less and less. So I think he kind of sees that if you're not going to invent something new or direct something new, that your audiences, your diehards, are only going to watch it for so much before that same fart joke is just not as funny or is not appealing anymore.
But that's what I'm saying. Like reboot, Jane Silent Bob reboot. I was kind of excited for that movie, and then I watched it, and I'm just like it has some jokes, but there's not like no there. The story was like kind of wasn't the best, and it was just like a lot of cameos, and like the whole like Jay and his kid story was like it was just like a background thing. It wasn't really in the main point. Like, and then same thing with here. Dante, the character, talks about his issues and after what he's been through, and like I think people can relate to that. But the way after going what he went through, and then going and he has his friend, and his friend. I mean, say what you will, Randall's a fucking asshole, but they've been together this whole time, and I mean, unfortunately for him to make him understand what a true friend Dante was and what he went through, that shit had to happen, and like you had to explain to him. And then Kevin Smith always said that he's Randall in the fucking movie. So, and then I'm just like, I don't know, that was kind of weird to me, but yeah, I mean, overall, like I said, I do recommend it. I bought the Blu-ray. I pre-ordered it. Even Kevin in the intro is like, "Yeah, thanks for buying this physical media." People say it's dead, but the reason we put it out because you guys bought a lot of Jay and Silent Bob reboot and Jay and Silent Bob and all that. He goes, we made a ton of money off of that, so thank you. And he goes, as long as you people continue to buy, I'll continue to put out physical media. And then it has a track full of extras. He has two documentaries, one about making Clerks 3 and one about Clerks. Like I saw that too, and he talks about from the first one to the second one and to the animated show, which was only 6 episodes, and then to this one how he changed it up. And so it was pretty good to see some of that. There was some insight that I didn't know about, and like going back to you said with your wife, Dan, like I knew my wife's not gonna like this type of movie. She doesn't like, like you said, fart jokes and weed jokes. She doesn't get that. It's not her cup of tea. But I was able to have a couple hours where I could watch this movie interrupted because I got a baby here at the house, and that's uh that's why I had a chance to watch it because I've had the movie for at least a month, and I finally had some time to just watch it interrupted, and like in the middle of a Saturday afternoon.
Oh, nice. No, good movie. I liked it, and yeah, kind of sad ending, but I think it worked out the way I would envision a Clerks 3 to end.
Yeah, so to me, I'm thinking like the other characters, like, are they gonna get another movie? And I'm like, I don't, who fucking knows? But I don't think so. But you know, it is what it is. I like it. I recommend it. The extras are awesome on physical media. That's why uh, I still buy physical media, though people mock me for it. But you know, I highly recommend it. Check it out, even if you're not a Clerks fan. Um, or a View Askew universe in this podcast, and I highly recommend it. And then the extras, they're always awesome for me. So, and the other thing I got is another people like another like passing of the guard. I mean, of stump people. I was even when I was a kid, it was kind of like dying, you know, with Evil Knievel and then his son. Like I used to love all that shit. I don't know about you guys. I know Jackass kind of did some stupid shit like carts, and then they kind of evolved in the movies, but it doesn't top what uh, Evil Knievel and his son Robbie Knievel did. And you know the reason I bring it up is because Robbie Knievel died this week at the time of this recording, and I did watch some of his stuff. I know he had a show on A&E for a while. To me, that's like the end of that era because he doesn't have a son. He did some other stunts that his dad couldn't do, and then like his dad was just like a fucking legend in the '70s and even early '80s. And some of the stuff, the videos that they would come up about him jumping, you know, the Caesars getting destroyed, the Snake River Canyon jump thing on this rocket. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. His Evil Knievel did, and the crashes were horrific. And his son did the Caesars jump, and he did a canyon jump too on a rocket or whatever you want to call it that. But he did a couple pay-per-views. I remember seeing him do a couple stunts on Fox, that Fox network, in like the late '90s. Like, and I used to watch all that shit. And unfortunately, he passed. There's nobody really to take up that mantle who does those stupid stunts. Um, Not stupid, but like jumping fucking 10 buses, jumping Hummers, jumping fucking anything. You know, to me, that's an era that's bygone. In today's kids, they got so much access to in front of them that like, you know, I don't know where it's gonna go. And I like they're satisfied with kids getting in shopping carts and getting pushed down the fucking parking lot. You know.
Like Jackass.
Yeah, like that's what I said. They got that, which is funny. I like that shit too. But like the grand spectacle of like, is he gonna survive? Is he's on a motorcycle? They designed this motorcycle to get as much speed, and if he doesn't land right, he could fly off and shit. And all he got is his helmet and like bean stalks at the end, like bean bales of hay at the end, and you see him fucking fly into it. Like I seen that multiple times, and then they give the thumbs up, like, all right, man, he's cool. They're gonna take him to the hospital and shit. He's gonna be jumping soon and stuff like that. It's just a bygone era to me.
Yeah, I've never been a huge fan of Robbie Knievel or his old man, but I was entertained by him, but I never followed it with like great passion. But you're right. I mean, before the internet era and before Jackass, this was the quintessential, stunt man. And whenever you want to see
Daredevil,
zany or Daredevil, whenever you
yeah,
want to see zany stuff, this is the guy that you would watch to see stuff like that.
yeah, like his dad, the Caesar's jump. I don't know. I mean, they used to play that on ABC's World Wide World of Sports, like in slow motion, him falling off the motorcycle and just fucking sliding and shit riding over him. Like he must have had like a shitload of broken bones, and like that one fucked him up. And then there was another guy that tried to do it, and I believe he died. So no one ever attempted it again. And then he did it, I think, in the late '80s or early '90s, and he did the jump, and he made it successfully. And so everybody was like amazed because they said that was cursed or something. And then he did a pay-per-view where he challenged another Daredevil from the UK, and they were jumping like buses and shit. I actually found that on YouTube the other day, and I was just it's like a pay-per-view then in the fucking 90s, $20, and I was like, man, I don't know. I wish I had a cheater box because I would have want to watch that.
Yeah, no, man. He definitely did some really crazy stuff that were just like outrageous. And with the attention span of kids nowadays, I don't know if they'd be willing to watch any of his specials because his specials, it was kind of like a long drawn out process. Like he's gonna jump the Grand Canyon,
Yeah.
and it was a half-hour special about him jumping the Grand Canyon. So it was only one stunt. And people nowadays they're used to Jackass where they do like 10 zany things. So I don't even know if kids nowadays would be able to watch
Well, that's
this.
why they brought in a fucking scientist from NASA to figure the mathematics out of this and what speed he needs to hit. And they would it was they would break it down for you like what he needs to do to make this jump, and it was drawn out, right? Like you said. And today, and then he had to do it, right? Because there's no CGI. And today, when you see some stunts or something, like you're like, oh, that's fucking CGI, right? Instantly, you're like, this is fake. Like that's CGI, or it's not. They did something to make it look like they did, but they didn't. Back then, they couldn't do that. So that's another thing where it's just like, dang, he fucking did it, or he got hurt, and it's just a bygone era. Like I said, the kids today, I get it. They got their own stuff. I'm not trying to sound like the old man, get off my lawn, but it is a bygone era, and I think that's like the end of it. It's like when Michael Jackson died too. Like that was the connection. Think about that to like the old school Motown. Like what's left of all that? That's pretty much it, man. I don't even Barry Gordy don't even come out or nothing like with musicians and stuff, and it's just slowly all that stuff's fading away and newer shit's coming up, and it is what it is, I guess. But let us know what you guys think of that if you're into that Daredevil stuff at ffnquestions@gmail.com. Um, and Robbie Knievel, hope he's keep rest in peace, and then you know let's lighten up the mood because this week's article, guys, it's a doozy. So let's go to our article of the week. So the article of the week is it's turning into like a meme, and I you can't make this shit up. So there's a police department in Tennessee um that involved 5 officers, and they were basically banging one officer, a female, and people got fired and suspended. So the only legitimate, well, not I want to call it legitimate, the only big news media talking about it that I found was the New York Post. Uh, it says a small Tennessee police station has been rocked by allegations of a wild sexual misconduct after a married female officer allegedly had steamy romps with 6 male officers, including illicit on-duty liaisons, according to reports. Uh, I'm not gonna name the officer's name, the female, but her and her fellow officers allegedly engaged in wild sexcapades that included sending dirty pictures, taking her top off at Girls Gone Wild hot tub party, and even having fellatio with 2 officers at the police station. Um, I like the word they use. The steamy shenanigans were allegedly bragged about. She bragged about the size of one of her co-workers' junk, and then she would tell him, "It's cool. It's an open marriage." Um, and then it went on from there. Um, so yeah, and the only reason all this kind of got it looked into was because the mayor of the city received a tip that the female officer was sleeping with several fellow cops and had a threesome with somebody, and the wife was in the one of the officers and the wife. and take it from there, guys. It's now on Twitter. It's like a joke about training seminars, and there's other people on Twitter talking about it was uh allegedly they had what the bad word is, they pulled trains on her, and more than once, and it's just like, this is like a small department police force. This isn't like a major metropolitan police. So it's just interesting to see what what all this, because I have a feeling that one of the persons that told the mayor was pissed that he wasn't having sex with her. That's what my gut is telling me, and I'll put it out on the board. What do you guys think? Like, this is why you never have any type of relationships with people you work with, I guess. It's a
Yeah,
bad combination.
Yeah, when I read this article, I was a little surprised, but at the same time, it sounds believable. Like there's a lot of stories like this that get like, a lot of traction on YouTube that I've seen. It's just a promiscuous world out there, and that I heard about open marriages and all that stuff. It's a crazy thing, dude. I could never see myself doing that, but I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I grew up on the Jerry Springer era, so this isn't too crazy, but yeah, it was pretty interesting to see that
These,
this like police station's like it's going crazy. This girl's like a bicycle, man. Everybody got a ride.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, at Springer, like, but these are professionals. You have to go to some schooling. You have to get some training to be an officer. And then the other thing, her husband's an officer in the same department, and so it's just like, this is like, I get it. They have an open relationship, or open marriage. Why the hell didn't they go like outside of that? Like, because then you could be like, it's personal stuff. But when it's inside the work area, then you're officers, and like, it's just crazy. Like, I can't believe I was reading this shit and all the memes that I saw about it, and I'm just like, this is insane.
yeah. To me, them having their sexual acts or whatever they're doing, I don't agree with it, but that's on you. Whatever floats your boat or whatever makes you happy, I'm not going to judge you on that. I think what was the big problem for the department, at least, was that they were doing this while they were getting paid, that they were clocked in and doing these sexual acts in the back locker room and the gym, in their squad cars. So it became something where taxpayers' money are paying for you to be doing these shenanigans, as they put them. Where if you're doing this in the privacy of your own home, and it would have come out, yeah, it would be kind of like, damn, I can't believe this is going on. But at the end of the day, that's your private life, and as long as you're not breaking the law, more power to you over there. Um, but yeah, as soon as you start doing it on the taxpayer dime, then that's when people are going to start, knocking on the chief's door and be like, "Hey, what the hell's going on over here?"
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's I think 2 or 3 officers got fired, or no, yeah, 2 of them got fired, and I think the other 3 got suspended, and I think she got fired herself. I don't know about her husband. So yeah, it's just, I did read somewhere that her husband's like, yeah, I'm gonna stick by my wife. So I was just like, oh, okay. And yeah, again, it's just like you said, personal stuff. I get it. It has no bearing on your job, but obviously it did impact their job because stuff was going on at work, and I think that's what did everybody in.
Yeah, for sure.
Not the hotel parties and shit. I think that might have done them too, because they didn't invite certain people. Maybe they didn't invite the sergeant or something. And he was like, "Yeah, I want a piece of that too." But it's just, like always, man. When you make decisions like this, or you gotta suffer the consequences that come with them. And unfortunately, she lost her job. Nobody's blaming her for doing what she did. Is just the problem is she did it at work.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think my next article is coming from the same website, but I didn't really like the way the article was kind of structured because it did go into a lot of personal detail about their acts and stuff like that. And where I don't think that stuff was as important as that they were doing it on the clock in the police station and in their squad cars. To me, that's where the article should have ended and not really gone into these details about their rendezvous and them getting together after hours and doing other stuff. To me, that's private stuff between consenting adults. That's on you.
Yeah, I mean, what's so what's what I think it's interesting is the investigation. They had to ask all these people, all these officers in question, like, did you have sex with her? And then where did you go have sex? And was it at here? And it's just like, one of them who goes after then initially denying having sexual relationship. She later copped to the affairs and also admitting having sex with at a motel after they met at a center or like a go kart center. And then the other officer like denied it, but after like here they call it interrogation, he's like, yeah, I did that. And like so people were denying it up and across the board. Imagine having that like multiple times, just like, so are you sure you didn't have sex? Or like, we know you did, she said you did, or the other guy said you did. It's just like it gets super personal. It gets very messy like real quick.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, anytime you're doing something, I, I, I'm presuming these people were married, these other four people that were involved in this thing. But yeah, I mean, if you're having shenanigans on the side and your wife might not know it, but now because of this investigation, it comes out that, you and four other guys are, doing these things with this girl. It does become embarrassing for sure.
So I'm sorry, yeah, three of them were dismissed, and then the other three were
They were like
suspended.
suspended,
Yeah,
right?
the HR director sanctioned 8 officers with various penalties for sexual activity while on duty, sexual harassment, and conduct unbecoming of an officer, and lying during the course of the investigation. Uh, then they revealed she texted a lot of people within the department. So Jesus, man, it's just like there's more people than initially we that everybody's talking about. So yeah, man, it's fucking weird. I don't know, people like let us know if you did any crazy shit at ffnquestions@gmail.com. And but overall, let us know what you think of the article. If you think this was right or people's personal lives doesn't matter. But I personally think that the problem is they did it at work, and that's what did them in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a time and place for everything, and what people do in their private lives is it's their business. It's just when you're doing it on tax, on the taxpayers'
Oh
dime.
shit,
uh,
taxpayer, damn Noel, man, shit. Like now,
Damn right. Taxes are too
I
high,
think
man.
Noel's pissed he wasn't invited to that hotel party, man. That was paying the tax dollar, the U.S. citizens' tax money, man.
You see this tax hike that they did on the gas pricing, man.
They want to take our stoves and they're out there fucking at some
It's because
hotel.
of
What the
this
fuck?
shit, man. Hell yeah. But yeah, like Andy said, let us know. But I think that's all the time we got, guys. We'd like to thank you all for listening. Remember to follow Freeform Network on Twitter at Freeform Network. Send in those questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Visit our webpage, freeformnetwork.podbean.com. There you're going to see all of our old episodes, 180 or so deep of episodes in there. A couple other one-offs with some other things that we've done. The two Daniels, man, some old stuff between me and my son that he's getting too old to want to do anymore with his old man. But yeah, some cool nostalgia stuff in there for sure. Hit that like and subscribe in whichever one that you're watching. whichever service that you're using. But for Freeform Radio, we got Andy.
It's all good, Andy. I want to thank you for listening, and then we'll catch you next time.
And we got Noel.
Hey, everybody. Thank you very much for listening. We appreciate you.
And I'm Daniel. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.
That was cool, Dad.